there are just some things you can't do. You just can't. I mean, you can. There's no coming back from them. There's no course of return. Once you have crossed that Rubicon, you can't reel that puppy back in. You can't put the proverbial toothpaste back in the proverbial tube. And Ohio State, former Ohio State running backs coach Tony Alford did one of the things you just can't do. Tony Alford decided to leave Ohio State to go become an assistant coach at Michigan. There are just some things you can't do. Now, he's not the first one to make that jump from one side of the rivalry to other. Just a couple of years ago, Al Washington and Greg Madison left the Michigan defensive staff to become assistant coaches at Ohio State. And even from one side of the rivalry or the other, it doesn't matter which side you view it from. It's just one of those things that you got to pick a side and stick to it. Now, I'm one of the people that will sit here and decry and bitch about how ridiculous the current political climate is in our country and how firmly entrenched everybody is on one side of their point of view or the other. And the only reason I believe this is because you believe that. Like, I've got a little brother. There are certain things that he likes that I just can't inherently like because he's younger than me, therefore he's dumb. Like, I would love to, like, there's some music that he likes that I have to, because my younger brother likes it, I have to therefore say, this is stupid, you're dumb, I don't like it. How could anybody possibly like that? Simply because he's my little brother. And it's sort of the same thing in college football. Like, you can't not have an opinion. And once that line is drawn and you've picked which side of it you're on, that's the side of it you're on. So if you're going to be the running back coach at Ohio State for a really long time and then still be gainfully employed, I think some people could look past the idea of going from one side of the rivalry to the other. Like, if he had been fired, for instance, like if Mike Hart, who is one of the all-time great running backs in Michigan, who got fired from Sherrone Moore's staff, if he had gotten fired and there was a running back coach job open at Ohio State and he took that job, I don't think people would be thrilled with it by any stretch of the imagination, but you can compute that in your mind of, dude didn't have a job. Like, you're gonna, like, if your options are not work or work at the place that you're supposed to hate, it sure beats being fun employed, right? So, like, people can look past that. But if you are going to jump from a gainfully employed position with one side of the rival, where legitimately, I would imagine that Tony Alford has told running backs at Michigan right now that they are making a mistake by going to that program, throwing their lives away, whatever the case may be, whatever he had to say to try to get them to come to Ohio State, he has probably said it to the people inside the room he is going to go coach. I remember, and this is a stupid anecdote, but when I worked at a job back in the day, our company spent a lot of time telling commercial advertisers that, like, if you buy direct mail, if you buy the town money saver or postcards or whatever, you're wasting your time. You might as well throw your money away. And then we bought one of those companies and told them how great direct mail marketing was. We told them, like, you should be buying postcards. You should be buying inserts. You should be buying. Well, wait a second. 2 weeks ago, you told me this sucked. And now you're telling me that it's awesome. And I imagine that's what Tony Alford's going to go through here over the course of the next couple of weeks. So, like, you told me how bad Michigan sucks. I'm not going to get a good education there, whatever the case may be, that they're cheaters, they're frauds. And then you're gonna jump to that job the second it comes open. There are just some things you can't do, whether it's Army, Navy, Auburn, Alabama. Run down whatever rivalry you want to list off. Like, for instance, Zach Arnett was the head coach at Mississippi State, got fired because he tried to, like, virtually torpedo that program. And then you join the staff at Ole Miss. There's just some things you can't do. You can't, and for fan bases to look past that, like, it legitimately. And I realize that this is ridiculous, but it almost makes you question your character a little bit. I'm like, well, wait a second. And believe me, nobody in, like, the college football world is going to be as adamant about, like, we're rooting for laundry at the end of the day. Okay. There's nothing different between the people in Ohio and the people in Michigan, the people that are Auburn fans, people are Alabama fans. Now, the people that are Auburn fans will tell you, yeah, there is something different. But for all intents and purposes, we're rooting for laundry. And we have psychologically convinced ourselves that our laundry is better than their laundry. Put all that aside. When you've convinced yourself that our laundry is better than their laundry, how in the hell are you going to go put on their laundry? It is virtually insane. And I can't decry if Tony Alford views that as a better opportunity for his career, whatever the case may be. Maybe he, had personal conflict on the Ohio State staff. I can't comment to that. I just know that basically, if you think that things are that dire, and this is it's not just strictly a college football thing. You can't go from being the CEO of Pepsi to being the CEO of Coke. You can't be working at Adidas in a high-level situation and go to Nike or Under Armour. And I could go on and on and on. You can't be the Limu Emu and then become the Geico Gecko. There are just some things you can't do. Damn it, it happened. And I love, one of my favorite things is when something like this happens, when each side of a rivalry can point to, I saw a Michigan radio host / writer post 19 laughy cry face emojis, because it is objectively funny. It is, if you're on that side of the rivalry, because you can turn that into a, if you can't beat them, join them, whatever the case may be. They got the upper hand. Michigan has the upper hand in the rivalry. You can act however way you want to act. Meanwhile, Ohio State fans can then be like, you know what? Tony Alford wasn't even that good. J.K. Dobbins, the only running back that ever got drafted, and he recruited. I was like, well, wait a second. Ohio State's running game has been objectively really good under Tony Alford. So the second that guy doesn't want to wear your laundry, we're running him down. Damn it. He wasn't even that good. Well, wait a second. Yeah, he was. And it's okay to be like, hey, he's pretty good at his job. It kind of sucks that he's going to move on. And you have the opportunity to hire, whoever you want in that position. There immediately was like, oh, Eddie George. He's got coaching experience at Tennessee State. And while it's probably a significant bump in pay if Eddie George, 1995 Heisman Trophy winner, wanted to come to Ohio State to be the running backs coach, he is happy where he's at Tennessee State. But I find the entire situation fascinating from both sides of the rivalry of, hell, last year, Michigan fans would tell you that Ohio State running backs are soft. They don't run hard. They don't play hard. Their coaching is bad. And then the second you hire the guy that you were arguing does that, it's, man, this is a great hire. I mean, we really upped ourselves in this position. I'm sorry that the Michigan legend had to go from the coaching staff, but this is a home run hire, and the Buckeyes are melting down on their message board. And then on the flip side, Ohio State are like, you know what? Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, we got a great stable of running backs. Dallin Hayden, you had Pork Chop. It was this idea that holy cow, we are compiling high-profile running backs. And then the second the dude leaves, he sucked. He wasn't even that good. J.K. Dobbins was the only one that got drafted. It's hilarious to me how you can flip on a dime like that, where it can be both. It can be that guy was really good, and now he's a traitor, and I hope bad things happen to him. It can be he's an elite running back coach, and I hate his guts. Or from the flip side, I don't know that it can be. He's not even that good of a coach. They suck, blah, blah, blah. And this is a home run hire. It can't be both in that situation. So that's why I try to be somewhat fair, reasonable, and reserved in my opinions on people as a whole. We could talk about and have discussions about what your thoughts are on this particular issue or whatever. I reserve judgment very rarely for coaches in their body of work. I think Dabo Swinney is a self-absorbed, self-important douchebag, but I can't argue with the ridiculous amount of success he's had. You can't. There's just no argument there. And that's why I think you got to kind of pump the brakes a little bit every once in a while. But then there are situations like this where it's fun to get riled up. It's fun to say, like, well, wait just a damn minute. Even if you go from kind of stop, like I'm of the belief that whether it's Army, Navy, Alabama, Auburn, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, Oklahoma, USC, UCLA, whatever the case may be, that kind of once you've dipped your toe in the one side of the rivalry, you can't find yourself back on the other. That if you were an assistant coach when you were a young pup in your coaching career at USC, and then like 20 years later, even UCLA is like, hey, we'd like to have you on the staff. Like, sorry, USC guy. I genuinely believe that that's sort of how it is. If I was a head coach, I would find it somewhat difficult. If I was Sharon Moore today and be like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to fire Mike Hart. You know who I'm going to replace him with? I think I want Tony Alford from Ohio State. As an AD, I would be like, there's literally one person you can't hire for that job. Actually, there's about 12 dudes you can't hire from that job. And that is somebody who is currently on Ohio State staff. Because the perception, the view of it is like, we spent 3 years running those dudes down. We spent 3 years telling you how bad those dudes suck at their job. And now you want to bring them into our program. Kind of a difficult sell. But it happened. And one final thing, I don't necessarily care. Like Tony Alford did what's best for Tony Alford. I disagree. I think that's the one job in America you can't take. All right. But he did what's best for him. Can't knock it. What I can knock is the message of thank you Buckeye Nation on social media. That's once you have said hey, I'm going to Benedict Arnold this bitch. You don't get to have I'm so grateful and thankful for the opportunities that I had. No, that's just one of those things where you got to grab your stuff and skedaddle out the back door as quick as you can and hope nobody notices. You are basically a thief in the night, because the idea that you're going to be like, thank you, Buckeye Nation, for all the great memories. Obviously, they didn't mean that much to you. You left to go to Michigan. So that one I will knock 100% all day, every day, Tony Alford for. Bro, read the room. When you are bailing, when you're like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm going to go to the heated rival, the most hated rival in sports. I'm going to go to that one, actually, even though I'm already gainfully employed here with one of the best situations in America at my position. I'm going to go somewhere else. And the somewhere else is the one place I really probably shouldn't go. But thank you for the memories. I'm so grateful. No, sir. No, you just you do the whole royal family thing of never explain, never complain. You get the bleep out. Nobody, you don't give an explanation to anybody. You hit the ground running and eat your comeuppance there on the tweet machine for a couple weeks, months, years, however long it is. But that's, if you're going to go from one side of a rivalry to another while you're gainfully employed, I don't think you give a so thank you so much. I'm so appreciative for the opportunity. Obviously that ain't the case. And obviously right now ain't the time that anybody wants to hear it. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content that we're pumping out here on Saturday Glory. If you're listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. See you tomorrow here on the Daily Huddle with Saturday Glory.